Listen, today we're going to focus on Chapter 1, page 4 and 5, starting there. What is economics? And today, you can see that the first question is, what is economics? Most people would probably answer supply and demand. And while that has a great deal to do with economics, it is not the answer to what is economics. And so today, we are going to focus on the basic structure of economics, and it is called, if you'll notice right over here, Scarcity and the Science of Economics. I'm going to move my camera here a little bit. Scarcity and the Science of Economics. Now, page 5. What we're going to do, let's zoom in a little bit. And there are some terms that we are going to need to know. Scarcity, economics, needs, wants, factors of production, land, capital, financial capital, labor, entrepreneur, production, and GDP, which is gross domestic product. Today's objectives in this lesson are, number 1, to explain the fundamental economic problems that all economic systems face. And then number 2, to examine the 3 basic economic questions that every economic system or society must decide. So by the end of this small, short segment, you should have a pretty good idea of how to answer those questions. So let's look at today what we're going to focus on. If you will look down here at the bottom, first thing we come to is the fundamental economic problem. And you will notice right away that scarcity is sort of in bold here. And scarcity is a term that you're going to need to know. So if you get a chance, just go ahead and write this down. Scarcity is the condition that results from society not having enough resources to produce all the things people would like to have. So again, scarcity is not enough resources to produce all the things that people actually want. There's a difference between needs and wants, which we'll get into a little bit later in the chapter. But certainly that is a big question that must be answered by societies, is how to utilize those scarce resources. All right. Now, again, we'll get into the difference between scarcity and shortages later on. Shortages are a temporary condition. But again, scarcity is a condition that always exists. We do not have enough resources to produce all the things that people want. Okay? So, remember the objective, the first objective today was to explain the fundamental economic problem of all societies. And that is how to use those resources, those scarce resources, to the best of their ability. Now, we're going to skip forward a little bit here to the next page, and it talks about the 3 basic questions that every system must answer. And those questions are, first, what to produce. How does a society decide what to produce? And using those scarce resources, should it produce food? Should it produce clothing? Should it produce cars, houses? What should each society produce, given those amount of scarce resources, right? The second question at the top of page 7 that must be answered is, how do we produce it? Should we open factories? Should the government produce it? Should we allow private manufacturing to produce it? How then should we produce it? Should we allow it to be produced by foreigners and then import it into the United States. So again, those are all questions in economics that every system of economics must answer. The third and last question is, who are we going to produce it for? Are we going to produce it for our population? Are we going to use those scarce resources to produce, to sell to other nations? Who are we going to produce it for? Now it says for whom to produce, and I understand that. But I need you to get that basic idea down, is who are we going to produce it for? So again, the three basic questions are, what are we going to produce? How are we going to produce it? And who are we going to produce it for? And that should answer the second objective, which is, what are the three basic questions that all systems must answer?